All right, so we're gonna make it 3. All right, we're 3. All right, okay, I'll make it happen. Okay. All right, good.
start in about 8 minutes, so
Okay.
it should be He just needs the Mosby account. Okay, I can kind of
But I said, like, I
Yeah, fine.
how was the party? Like, I wanted to feel like she was there.
He's gonna try to get this.
I am kind of curious. It's just all outside. Yeah.
Hey, can you help me do that restraint? I'm already.
Oh my God.
Big way shot. All right. All right. Okay. I'll be right back.
I know the Instagram page, but I don't know if you need the page or anything. Hold on.
Yeah, if you find it, yeah, down.
So they're not down now?
Yeah,
Right.
right. Oh, yeah, that's good. And then Jeff would be. I had some photo of her
So someone in the string of bad news was all this. How's he doing?
Yeah, I just hit live. I just hit go live.
Highlight. Yeah.
It says.
Oh.
All right. It says.
I don't know that I read it now.
That's why.
But I did it then.
That's good. All right. All right. See you. Okay. Hot. Yeah.
Everybody come back. I don't care. Is it this mic?
Just top in the middle. Just go
In the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. That's hot. That's good. Where's the other mic? The crowd out.
Yeah, I'm coming in now.
Diamond. Maybe we get some more tape to put.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Maybe we get tape to put on the front middle.
Yeah, in the middle. That's what I think.
You guys don't have command strips? I'll send you a couple.
We need some right now, right? Yeah, it might have to be up here. What do you think about this? Still need like a little bit.
I'm trying to find how hard that can be.
Let's go see that. Some heavy duty tape.
Alright, let me get back to do you think the widget work?
Yeah, that might work too. I'm trying to see if I can get this.
Alright, I got it.
You do this. Take this off. Put it right there. Shot myself on camera. It does. 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 Clean it up a little bit at the top and put it across the top. As long as you can, but
Yeah, this should actually work. It should be good.
so you got it anyway.
I know, I was like, we got it up to make it easy. It didn't show up, right? I mean, not really.
The one at the
I mean,
gas
if you're
station.
gonna put more on it, put more on it now.
Yeah.
You didn't even draw like a, this is gorilla. You didn't even draw a little bit up and just put it on the back.
No, this is good.
Oh, it did?
Yeah, I ain't gonna see that. If they do, man, it's TV. It's news. Yeah, he's going with it, man.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
I'm gonna have my camera in the car, man. It's live.
Yeah.
We got all day.
All day. So I do a TV show that comes on Sunday morning. The YouTube video.
Yeah.
Not some video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell people, hey, come to our house, my house, our house. I'll give it that time. Right, get that time, right. Right. And it gives me a chance to kick the tires, you know. We know this side of the camera. Yeah. I never been, man, but I know it's no different in my face. She's got some red on.
We're all standing around so we can get a picture.
Sure.
How are you guys? You guys can come on both sides.
They're trying to get some of that shade.
Come on, get
Come
it.
on over.
Yep, we want to be right here. That's fine. Come on, beautiful. There you go. Yep.
Beauty up here.
Yes.
You can come up here. Yeah, right there. Come on. There we go. So you're in the shot, please. Need you there. Need you there. There you go.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Kevin A. Slayton. I pastor the Northwood Pole United Methodist Church in East Baltimore. I'm glad to be here today and joined by my colleagues in the faith, Reverend Dame Doris, Reverend Alvin Gwynn, Reverend Charles, Zelda Childs, Shelley Burton, Pastor Gregory Perkins, and Pastor Bishop Heber Brown Sr. This is not a unique gathering during this season. It's political season in Baltimore, and historically, there has always been attention given to the proclamations, if you will, of faith leaders, particularly within the African American community. You'll all agree that historically, rarely do you see during this election cycle politicians making their way to mosques, synagogues, or temples. All too often, they end up in the Protestant-leaning African American church. And I believe that's because there's a strong history of the African American preacher standing in that space for justice. And so here we are today, standing in that tradition with one who comes from our community, our dear sister, who's been under an awful lot of attack lately. But it's not new. And us standing with her should not be new. Sister Mosby is a fine prosecutor. She entered the race at a very difficult time at a very young age. A lot of judgments on her and a lot of expectations. But she's a child of hope. The problem when you have children of hope, they believe they can do things even when it doesn't seem possible. So that's why we're standing here today, because for many folks it doesn't seem possible. She could mount this mountain, achieve a victory. But we stand here to endorse her because we believe she can. The reason we believe she can is because we hadn't been fooled, we hadn't been hoodwinked. Some 440 pieces of legislation to impact voter access have been introduced in 2021 in 49 states. That's no surprise. There's one station within our arm's reach that tends to spend the first 10, 15 minutes of its time on television talking about one candidate. And for too long, all too often, when it's been someone who stood in the gap for our community, we've retreated. Not today. There's no fear here. We stand in confidence. We believe that God can do anything. And we believe that God is on her side. And so we are very proud today to endorse our sister, Marilyn Mosby, to retain her seat and ask you to re-elect her as this city's state's attorney. I'm going to ask now Sister Zelda Childs to come and bring brief remarks, followed by our leader, Reverend Gregory Perkins.
The story is told of an old farmer who became aware that his donkey was down in a well. And when he surveyed the situation, he decided it would be too difficult to try to pull him out. So he decided he would bury him. He threw buckets and pails and shovels of dirt in that well. And the old donkey jumped up on each bucket, each pail, and each shovel full of dirt. And before you know it, the donkey was stepping out. That's what Marilyn Mosby does every day in a male-dominated arena where it seems that everything is against her. She steps up and she steps out and she stands firm. And that's all we want the voters to know, is to stay with the person that continues to step up and stand firm. We endorse Marilyn again this year. Amen.
My name is Gregory Perkins. I'm the pastor of the historic St. Paul Community Baptist Church at 1901 East Federal Street in the heart of East Baltimore. And I'm here representing other members of the faith community, telling Baltimore City and the world that we wholeheartedly endorse Marilyn Mosby for another term as our city state's attorney. To quote the late Reverend John Lewis, she's made some good trouble, and rightly so. She refuses to go back to the days of zero tolerance that caused the problems that we've been having between the community and the police department. She refuses to prosecute for minor offenses, packing our jails with young blacks and poor minorities who really don't deserve to be there for the crimes that they've committed. She stood for us, and it's time that we stand for her. We wholeheartedly, we sincerely endorse our next city state's attorney, the Honorable Mrs. Marilyn Mosby.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Good afternoon. I am beyond honored to have the support of so many faith leaders who have given so much to Baltimore. I, like many others, look to these men and women for spiritual guidance and wise counsel. History has proven that it is the faith community, not law enforcement or policy makers, but the faith community that has been the bedrock and moral backbone of our communities. These faith leaders standing before you today have provided a light of hope for a city that has seen our share of dark days. If it were not for these faith leaders and the Black church, these leaders with the courage to challenge the status quo by establishing and participating, financing, and mobilizing our people during history's most critical and social and civil rights movements. I, as a Black female, representing 1% of all elected prosecutors in the country, and once, not anymore, the youngest chief prosecutor of any major American city, perhaps I would not be standing here before you today. The fact is that the church remains the pillar of hope and stability in nearly every African American community. This still remains true. Even today, when it seems as if the world may be in a moral recession, the church, if nothing else, can still move the people. No matter the struggle, no matter the crisis or the weather, we still come to church, and that speaks volumes to the magnitude of the collective power standing here today. Law enforcement agencies and social justice leaders are not equipped to solve nor tackle the immense civic and social challenges of our city on our own. Scripture tells us, for as the body apart from the spirit is dead, so also faith apart from works is dead. That is why I'm incredibly humbled to receive the support of the faith leaders standing with me today. We are coming down to the stretch in this election, and I'm excited about turning out the vote. It has been a long and grueling campaign, but I am confident that the people of Baltimore know that I'm fighting for them and fighting with them to move this city forward, not backwards. My family and I have gone through a lot over the past few years, both personally and professionally, and it has been the support, the good energy, and the prayers of people of faith and the faith leaders that you see today who encourage me, lift me up, and keep us all going. I know this is not all about me. It's really about our city, the city that we love, and the people of Baltimore who we are blessed to serve. Together, we keep fighting for the people and will continue to hold everyone accountable to one standard of justice, regardless of race, sex, religion, or occupation. We will win this election, and we will continue moving forward. We will achieve the progress we seek, and we will do it together. I'm thankful for the support of these faith leaders that I respect so much. And let's, right now, get out that vote. Thank you. Questions?
I'll wait for the ambulance to pass. How about that? Okay. So many of you have reached out to me for comments on the unfortunate incident with the killing of Timothy Reynolds last week. And as you know, I can't comment on that case specifically because it's an open and pending investigation. But I certainly extend my condolences to the Mr. Reynolds family and to every family affected by crime and violence in our community. It's unfortunate that too many are committed using violence to solve conflict. Now, as far as speaking about the squeegee issue altogether and in general, I think that we can all agree, and I think that we all agree, the one thing is that none of us want to see children in the street forced to squeegee or panhandle for money. To quote my good friend, the late Congressman Elijah Cummings, we're better than that. And as a city and a society in general, we're better than that. Most of us all agree that we don't want to have to arrest and haul a 12 and 13-year-old young person off to jail for any reason. But until we get serious about addressing the systemic root causes of poverty and the economic inequity, we are going to have people of all ages and all races having to hustle and make risky choices in most instances in order to survive. Amen. It's not right, but the situation and circumstances that create this reality are not right either. Over the past week, there have been a lot of folks talking about how we solve the squeegee kid issue, and much of it has been around the holistic strategies to improve economic conditions of some of our underserved communities. I've been saying this for 7 years. 28% of Baltimore's population lives in poverty. 35% of children live below poverty. Since the inception of my administration, this is why my office was at the forefront of creating policies and units that work to expand opportunities for our young people and individuals who come from underserved communities. We created the only crime control and prevention division in the state's attorney's office for that reason. Through this unit, we've created programs such as the Junior State's Attorney Program aimed to be more in Great Expectations. We have served several hundreds of Baltimore residents through these efforts. We're creating opportunities for youth of all ages to engage in the positive aspects in the criminal justice system. But in reality, these efforts are long-term efforts, and over time will help to change the trajectory of some individuals who may otherwise head down the wrong path. But I realize that these and other long-term efforts must be partnered with immediate and practical near-term solutions to end poverty overall, which is why I'm committed to working with the mayor. I've worked with 4 of them since I've been in office, all state and federal partners, the business community, nonprofit sectors, and all community stakeholders to develop a communal whole of Baltimore strategy to address the conditions that lead children and young adults to squeegee and panhandle on our streets. We can do that and still be unequivocal in our policy that we will always prosecute crimes where there is a victim, such as an assault, robbery, property damage, carjackings. We will not tolerate crimes against the citizens of Baltimore or the people who come to visit our great city. But you asked me specifically about my opponent's plans. The core, both of my opponent's plans are to return to a time of mass incarceration and over-policing of Black and brown communities. They can dress it up with fancy PowerPoints, but ultimately it is a return to failed philosophies and policies that have proven unsuccessful and left communities such as mine, particularly communities of color, hollow and fractured. The plans proposed by both of my opponents will again create a divide between the community and the criminal justice system, which makes it so much harder to get the trust and the cooperation that is needed from victims and witnesses of crime in our city. That tension severely handicaps us as prosecutors in the courtroom. So my reaction, whether they call it a 90-day plan or a 60-day plan, both of my opponents are literally racing each other to see who can be the quickest to lock up a 12-year-old black and brown boys for squeegeeing. I would have loved to debate this issue and every issue in this case and in this race. There was actually a debate that was scheduled for last evening, but neither of my opponents would accept the invitation from the League of Women Voters and the NAACP. It would have been the only televised debate of this campaign and an important opportunity for the voters and the citizens to see each candidate. But they don't want to debate because neither of them have a vision that makes sense to our community. Their proposal is to merely return to an era of mass incarceration, over-policing, and reinstituting a failed war on drugs. We cannot afford to go back.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
If police were to charge squeegee person with violating that state law, would you prosecute?
So again, I think that we need a communal sort of solution. And I am committed to working with private sector, non-private sector, law enforcement, the mayor's office. We have to figure out a communal sort of solution. I don't believe in incarcerating and locking up 12-year-olds that are merely on the corner trying to survive. So we have to figure this out.
So no?
I can tell you, I believe in developing a communal solution.
You talk about 12-year-olds, young adults on the street corners. We spoke to some of the young squeegee workers, and they say the education system has failed them dramatically. How do you address that when they want to be in school, they want to attain an education, and the system has failed them? So what do you say to that?
I mean, you are touching upon the need for us to take a holistic approach, right? We can't just keep continuing to resort to these failed policies of the past and thinking that we're going to somehow see different results. The criminalization of young people, of black people, it has got to change. We need a communal solution. When you are in a city where 28% of Baltimore's population lives in poverty, 35% of children live below poverty, the over 18,000 vacant houses, 16,000 vacant lots, the unemployment rate for young African American men between the ages of 18 and 24, which is more than twice that of others. We have got to take a holistic approach. And I think that the squeegee issue is a microcosm of the issues of Baltimore City. We make so many investments in downtown and not enough in uptown. And until we start to do that, then we're always going to have this issue.
That's right. That's right.
Just to be clear, you talked about the near-term strategy being the communal, like working in partnership with other agencies in the mayor's office. Is there a near-term strategy or anything you plan to do differently, like within your office after the shooting?
So right now I'm planning on attending. There's, all communal stakeholders are trying to figure out this issue. And I want to be a part of that process, and I intend to be a part of that process. Understanding and recognizing at the end of the day, it's going to be my office that's going to have to deal with the issue.
You talked about how there's many partners involved and
Yeah.
you're working with many, and you are in front of faith leaders, and you just mentioned the church is very instrumental in these lives. I mean, I guess this question's for you, but also faith leaders leading your communities, are you getting involved in this? What are you doing to reach out to these children who are, as you said, hustling because they don't have any other options?
So, I mean, that's the point, right? This is the beauty of today, is that the faith community is stepping forward and saying, we want to be a part of the solution, and we believe that we can't go back and regress. We got to continue to move forward. And so that means breaking the school to prison pipeline, ensuring that we get to young people before they get to the criminal justice system, and also supporting individuals like myself who will never be complicit in the discriminatory enforcement of laws against poor black and brown people. This is the church stepping up. And so, yes, I welcome, and I'm sure the mayor welcomes, the faith community and developing a communal strategy and solution to what has been a problem in our city for a very long time.
Maybe one of the faith leaders could answer this.
Sure.
We talk about education. Marilyn Mosby has brought up a lot of great issues. We talked about education of the young black guys on the corner. Why you guys ain't stepping up?
We have stepped up.
I mean, talk to the mic, sir.
You want to answer that? Uh-oh.
I'm glad you asked.
Well, that's why we're here.
We ran a mentoring program for 7 years. We called it Boys to Men. Out of our church, we went after the boys on the corner. And the draw was, we offered pizza, small snacks, popcorns and things, and we also had video games to get them in. And then we brought in black men, successful black men, to talk to the young men about life on the streets. And one of the guests we had was the former mayor, Jack Young. And we reached probably 50 young men off the corner for 7 years, but we had to discontinue it because of COVID.
Some are in the parks, some are jobs. Give these young people something to look forward to.
So the fact is, many of the churches have stepped up, but you don't hear about that.
Some are jobs, some are in the parks.
I'm not the only one. I know pastors who have NA ministries, but they go after those in the bond of addiction, and AA ministries, and they do ministry to single mothers. My friend Dr. Harley Wilson at the Israel Church, he has a whole building where he goes, where they reach young women, mothers who have battled addiction. And it happens all the time, but you just don't hear about it.
I understand that, but the key question, I don't think you answered, education is the problem. How come you guys aren't going on North Avenue pounding the drum? If you haven't, now correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
if you have.
Yes, we have.
The young guys that we interview on this President and Lombard, the main thing they're talking about is education.
I just want to speak to the reason we're here. We're here to endorse a candidate that we believe helps to impact the very issue you're talking about. There's no reason we're here. But let's be honest and deal with some facts real quick, because at a certain point, the questions become absurd in a city like this. We're literally at a point right now where white folks are to become millionaires selling a product that tons of little black and brown boys are serving time for. Now, you believe for the last 2.5 years, every bit of research that came out of Johns Hopkins University as it related to the pandemic. Why won't you believe it when they tell you the policy that she introduced, was effective? Why won't you believe that policy when they give that type of research? Why won't you accept that? Why do you want to keep trying to challenge her on things that you have public access to? And if you are honest about this conversation, the whole conversation changed on the dime when she said that. She didn't say it this way, I'm gonna say it this way. When she said, I'm no longer locking up little black and brown boys for selling a product that white boys are about to sell and become millionaires, the power was incensed. And you turned the knob and you turned up the heat. But she doesn't have to stand this heat by herself. That's why we're here. Let's stay on focus.
Go ahead, Mr. Green.
I'm standing here and I'm listening to you all talk, but one thing I'm asking the question, where's the money? Where's the money to fund all this? You have a Governor Hogan who put on the voting that all casino money, lottery money, portions of it will go to education. Where is it? Sitting in a locked box.
Thank you, sir.
We got the highest right now of monies in our state treasury. I think it's something like $16 billion sitting there. Now, none of it's gotten to the schools, none of it's gotten to the nonprofits, none of it's gotten to the churches, and you say, make bricks without straw. And I'm telling you that is impossible. Show us the money, and we can get a whole lot done. Thank you.
So the only thing I will add is that, and these efforts are being done, and we need and we hope, that's unfortunately not what sells. Right? The work that's being done every day in these churches is not what is covered. The work that's being done in my office is not what's covered. We've touched more than 7,000 young people through my Crime Control and Prevention Division. We look at the fact that my junior state's attorneys, which have been over 340, 95, they start in the 6 weeks in the summertime. We partner with the Mayor's Office of Employment Development to pay these young people. They go to the 911 call center, evidence control room, Foxtrot, Federal Circuit, District Court, and at the culmination of that 6 weeks, they do a mock trial competition at the University of Baltimore School of Law where they can then see themselves as judges and prosecutors and police. I don't allow them to play the role of the defendant. right? 95% of those young people that have gone through that program, I didn't get any funding for it. We had to go out and get additional grant funding to try to support that program. 95% of those young people have graduated from high school, are in college or on a career track, and 33% of them are actually in a field for criminal justice. Do you know how many times we've invited the cameras to come and see as my babies, my junior state's attorneys are pinned? And how many cameras have shown up? So I think that it's twofold. Yes, the work is being done, but is it being properly covered? Yes.
Some of your opponents have called for ratcheting up law enforcement on some of these corners, even short of charging people, but confiscating squeegees, confiscating spray bottles. Is there any level short of charging kids that you find?
So again, it's like you're going to snatch the spray bottle and create some sort of confrontation with, you know, these 12-year-old and 13-year-old children and the police, like as if there's not enough distrust that already exists. I don't think that that's the solution. And unfortunately, because of the inexperience of my opponents, they're suggesting on how they have an idea on how to deploy the police department. That falls well outside the scope of their purview, but that speaks to their inexperience. We have got to break down these barriers of distrust. When you have a 94-year-old and a 14-year-old being shot in broad daylight and no communal support, the reason why is because of the tension that exists among young people and the police. They see it, but they're not going to come forward. We have to break down those unnecessary engagements. That's the reason for my policies. That unnecessary engagement, we have for far too long relied on the police to respond to every social ill of society. Homelessness, some substance use disorder. That's not their job. Their job is to respond to public safety issues. Now, if somebody's banging on your car or breaking and maliciously destroying your property, absolutely the police should respond. Absolutely, I intend to prosecute. But if you are suggesting to go and rip the squeegee spray bottle out of a 12-year-old's hand, that speaks to your inexperience. Any other questions?
Knowing that the shooting last week is like a high-profile issue for a lot of people, are there any updates you can provide? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I can't. Okay, I mean, I think that what is known to the public is generally what, you know, I can't even go beyond that because ethically, I can't talk about the substance of that case because my office is going to be making a determination ultimately about what happens.
Have you advised the police department on how to handle the case or what you will be looking for if indeed they do file charges?
No, I mean, we work with the police department ultimately in the investigation, so we are working collaboratively with the police department in that case as well. Any other questions? Thank you so much. I appreciate you all.